I am Edwin Lewis, National Program Leader in the Division of Family and Consumer Sciences. I will serve as your moderator for today's session. I'll be assisted by Tammy Neville, Program Specialist in the Division of Bioenergy. Welcome to the third day of the Grant Support Technical Assistance Workshop. Today's session will include presentations on competitive funding opportunities in 5 of NIFA's program areas: AFRI, Education and Outreach, Small Business Innovation Research, and Small Business Technology Transfer, Animal Health and Production and Animal Products, Plant Health and Production and Plant Products. At this time, we will have an introduction from Dr. Deb Hemmernet, Deputy Director for the Institute of Food Production and Sustainability. Deb, we'll turn it over to you at this point. Well, Deb may not be on. She may be having some technical issues. If that is the case, well, we will just keep moving forward. Again, welcome to today's session. We are excited to have you. Just some heads up about today's session. Each presentation will be followed by a period of question and answers as time permits. However, if time does not permit, we will have a 30-minute or so Q&A at the end of the last presentation. If your question is not answered live, we will try to answer during the chat, but we will also post Q&A on our website in about a week after the workshop. So a couple of special notes as well. Please enter your questions in the Q&A box at the bottom, the Q&A box, instead of the chat box. Again, use the Q&A box for your questions. Again, we will answer some of those in the chat, but we will also have Q&A after each one of the sessions and following the last presentation. So at this point, we will get kicked off with our first presentation. So we're going to turn it over to Mark Mirando and Leland Dixon for a presentation on AFRI. So Tammy, you can share at this point.
So thank you, Edwin. Good morning, everyone. And what I'd like to speak with you this morning is about the Agriculture and Food Research Initiative, or AFRI as we call it, which is our agency's largest competitive grant program. So this is going to be a very brief overview of a very complex program at Okay, good morning, everyone. It's always helpful to have your speaker unmuted. So I want to speak to you this morning on about the Agriculture and Food Research Initiative, or AFRI as I will call it, and present a very brief overview of our agency's largest program in the food and agriculture science. So next slide, please. So as Edward said, I'm Mark Mirando. I'm National Science Liaison in Animal Production Systems with the National Institute of Food and Agriculture. And I am also the Science Coordinator for the AFRI program. And with me today, I also have Leland Dixon, and Leland is the AFRI coordinator. So the two of us make up 50% of the AFRI coordination team. Next slide, please. So this is our non-discrimination statement for the USDA. I'm not going to read it to you, but it basically states that at USDA, we are prohibited from discriminating based on race, color, national origin, religion, sex, gender identity, sexual orientation, and so forth and so on. And then also for persons with disabilities who require alternative means of communication or for program information, please contact us if you need additional assistance. But the link, if you want to read this in detail, you can go back later on to this presentation and read it, or you can click on that link in the future. Next slide, please. So the AFRI program is authorized by the Farm Bill. That's the authorizing legislation, which authorizes AFRI, NIFA to conduct AFRI under 6 priority areas, which I will talk about in just a minute. And we have, so we have aligned the AFRI program with these very closely with these 6 Farm Bill priorities. And we have organized it into 3 requests for applications, or RFAs. And so those 3 RFAs, which I will talk about in more detail, are the Foundational and Applied Science RFA, the Education and Workforce Development RFA, and the Sustainable Agriculture Systems RFA. And those first 2 RFAs are published as 2-year RFAs. So we have deadlines, submission deadlines for 2 years of submission and funding cycles. So we're giving not only a lot of time to see the deadline and apply this year, but also the deadlines for next year, 2024, are listed as well. The Sustainable Agriculture Systems RFA is published as a 1-year RFA each year. Next slide, please. So as I said, AFRI is authorized to do work under 6 Farm Bill priority areas, which are listed in purple on this slide. And so we've organized the Foundational and Applied Science RFA program areas directly with the Farm Bill priorities. And those 6 Farm Bill priorities or program areas in the Foundational and Applied Science RFA are plant health and production and plant products, animal health and production and animal products, food safety, nutrition and health, bioenergy, natural resources and environment, agriculture systems and technology, and agriculture economics in rural communities. We've also added a 7th program area, which we refer to as cross-cutting program area priorities. And these program areas cut across 2 or more of the 6 program areas above. Next slide, please. And so these cross-cutting program area priorities in some cases may cut across all 6 foundational program areas, and those 4 program area priorities are listed here: critical agricultural research and extension, data science for food and agricultural systems, extension, education, and USDA Climate Hubs partnership, and rapid response to extreme weather events across food and agricultural systems. These 4 program area priorities cut across all 6 program areas or Farm Bill priority areas that I listed on the previous slide. Next slide, please. We also have program area priorities that cut across 2 or more, but not all 6 of the program areas. And they're listed on this slide: agricultural microbiomes and plant systems and natural resources cuts across 2 or 3 program areas. Interdisciplinary engagement in animal systems cuts across animal health and production and animal products program area and 3 other program areas. Agricultural biosecurity cuts across 2 program areas. And then we have agricultural at the AFRI Commodity Board, co-funding topics which are unique, and we work with commodity boards to co-fund specific programs that they're interested in. And the newest program, which is a Center for Research, Behavioral Economics, and Extension on Food Loss and Waste, which cuts across about 3 program areas. So next slide, please. So that concludes the Foundational and Applied Science RFA. We also have the Education and Workforce Development RFA, which has these 6 program area priorities: postdoctoral and predoctoral fellowships, in which the individual fellow applies through their institution for a fellowship grant. We have research and extension experience for undergraduates, in which the faculty at an institution apply for a group of fellowships to support undergraduates. Professional development for agricultural literacy, which is training and continued education for kindergarten through junior college, agricultural teachers, and then agricultural workforce training grants at community colleges, and then food and agricultural non-formal education, which is an extension only program. And so you can see this suite of programs targets is attempting to broaden participation in AFRI and targets potential applicants that are more unique to the agriculture and food system competitive grant program. Next slide, please. And then the third RFA is the Sustainable Agricultural Systems RFA, which began in 2018 and is the progression of the old challenge area programs to new transdisciplinary systems level work. And this program provides grants of up to 10 million per systems level coordinated agricultural project, or CAP grant. There's also a second program in this on mitigation of methane from ruminants as well, for $5 million CAP grants. But for the main program that allows projects for up to $10 million, the A9201 program, the Sustainable Ag Systems program, projects must be fully integrated. That is, they must include and integrate research, education, and extension cohesively into these grant programs. They require all 3 of these functions to be integrated together. So now I want to shift gears on the next slide and talk with you a little bit about the grant types. So AFRI is a very complex program. We have a lot of different grant types that target our typical applicant community, as well as more broad or more diverse applicant community that we're targeting. So the AFRI, the broad grant types here are listed on this slide. We have standard grants. This is our most common grant type in AFRI, and probably represents 75% of our grants that we award. Coordinated agricultural projects, which I mentioned in the Sustainable Ag Systems, or SAS program, are very large grants. They tend to be mostly integrated. Most of those opportunities are in the SAS program, but there are some other CAP opportunities. We offer conference grants within the Foundational and Applied Science program only, and these are limited to $50,000 in total costs for these conference grants. And then we have a suite of grant opportunities called the Food and Agriculture Science Enhancement or phase grants. And the phase grant opportunity is actually a three-legged stool of grants to expand participation among different types of applicants to the program. And so these three legs of the phase stool are the pre and postdoctoral fellowships grants, which I said previously are found in the Education and Workforce Development RFA. There are strengthening grants, several types of strengthening grants, which can be found, different types can be found in all three RFAs. And then we have two types of new investigator grants, which are offered in our foundational and applied science RFA. So I'll dive deeper into each of these grant types, a little bit more deeply into each of these grant types, focusing especially on the phase grant types. So next slide, please. So the goals of the phase grant opportunities are firstly to help institutions develop competitive projects, and secondly, to attract new scientists and new educators into careers in high priority areas of national need in agriculture and food sciences. So basically to expand participation and the target applicant community in the food and agricultural sciences. So we're trying to expand the breadth of applicants to the AFRI program with the phase opportunities. Next slide, please. So this slide again shows the three legs of the phase grant opportunity stool. And I'll talk about the eligibility for these grant types in the next few slides. But as I said, we had pre and postdoctoral fellowship grants. We have several strengthening grants, which include standard grants or strengthening standard grants. These are standard grants in all respects, but they're for strengthening eligible institutions. We have strengthening CAP grants, which are identical to a regular CAP grant in all respects, but are again for strengthening eligible institution. We have strengthening conference grants. And then we have three types of grants, which are only, the eligibility is restricted to strengthening eligible institutions. And these include strengthening seed grants, strengthening sabbatical grants, and strengthening equipment grants. And then the third leg of these phase grant opportunity are for new investigators. And I'll talk about what is a new investigator in a couple slides from now. But we have new investigator standard grants. Again, these are identical to standard grants in all respects, but they're submitted by new investigators. And then we have seed grants for new investigators. And this opportunity was first launched in 2021. So we have seed grants and standard grants for new investigators. I will say that we have a specific set aside for the pre and postdoctoral fellowships. A certain percentage of the AFRI appropriations is dedicated strictly for pre and postdoctoral fellowships. Similarly, a certain percentage of the AFRI appropriation is set aside for strengthening the grants, as as well. For new investigators, there is no set aside authorized, but all programs that offer new investigator grants are expected to fund new investigators, to fund one or more new investigators, depending upon the size of the program. Next slide, please. And so very quickly, the eligibility for these different types of phase grants are for the pre and postdoctoral fellowships. Eligibility is restricted to citizens, nationals, and permanent residents of the United States. So that's the first eligibility restriction. You must be a citizen, national, or permanent resident to be able to apply, even if you're applying through an institution. And then the second eligibility is progress towards completion of the degree for predoctoral fellowships. So for example, for predoctoral fellowships, you must have advanced to candidacy by October 26th of this year to be eligible. And for postdoctoral fellowships, it's based on completion of the degree. Either it's been completed or will be completed soon. And it's complex, so I always say see the RFA. But for postdoctoral fellows, you have to have received the doctoral degree no earlier than January 1, 2020, or have completed all requirements for the degree by June 7th of 2024. So that's the time frame for eligibility for postdocs. January 1, 2020 to June 7th, 2024 for this current submission cycle. For eligibility for strengthening grants under the phase opportunity, the project director, and this applies only to the project director, the lead project director, and not co-project directors or collaborators. The project director must be located at a degree granting institution in one of these types of situations. So in EPSCoR states, so these are states that have been less successful at receiving AFRI funds. So EPSCoR is established program for stimulating competitive research. And so those 19 EPSCoR states that are receiving the least amount of AFRI funding, or the U.S. territories and possessions and the District of Columbia. So District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, American Samoa, and so forth and so on. Or they can be at small to mid-size institutions with limited institutional success. Small to mid-size is defined as 17,500 or less total enrollment, part-time, full-time, and graduate student enrollment, all students. So small to mid-size that have limited institutional success, or at minority serving institutions with limited institutional success. And minority serving institutions is defined at total student enrollment, part-time, full-time graduate students, of which 50% are of minority status or a combination of minorities. And again, these minority serving institutions must have limited institutional success, and we have a chart in the RFAs that defines that limited institutional success. So this is the strengthening is again is an attempt to broaden participation in AFRI to those institutions that have been less successful in the past. And finally, new investigators on the eligibility is described on the next slide. And new investigators is defined as an individual within their first 5 years of a career track position. That's not the first 5 years since they got their highest degree. So it's the first 5 years of their first career track position, and a career track position is one in academia, the federal government, the private sector, nonprofits, whatever sector it is, in which they are allowed by their institution to submit standard grant applications and be the project director on the standard grant applications. So that's the first career track position. So in other words, a person can have gotten their PhD, done a postdoc for 3 or 4 years, and then they get their first career track position, and they have 5 years of eligibility as a new investigator in their first career track position. They must have a limited publication record, and that publication record bar is set pretty high. We have not had very many new investigators exceed that. So it's 25 publications as primary author, or as first author or principal author, or 75 total publications. And then there's a little bit of different eligibility for new investigators for standard grants and seed grants. So for a standard grant, new investigator standard grant, they can have had no previous federal funding other than a pre or postdoctoral fellowship, or an AFRI seed grant or equivalent. For a new investigator seed grant, they can have had no previous federal funding other than a pre or postdoctoral fellowship. So if they previously received a seed grant or equivalent, that makes them ineligible for a seed grant, for an AFRI seed grant, but they can still apply for a new investigator standard grant. And then finally, on this last slide, it lists the entire AFRI coordination team. Leland, who will be the AFRI coordinator, who's on this webinar and will be available to answer questions. Amber Campbell and Susan Muhyiddin, who are the AFRI program specialists and do a wonderful job. And I am the AFRI science coordinator. As I said previously, our email address is afri@usda.gov if you have questions in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Very informative. At this point, we will move forward to some Q&A. We have a little bit of time for Q&A. So some of those questions are being answered in our chat at this point. But let's start off with this question. Mark, there's a question related to sustainable ag systems. Do you have a definition for systems level?
So basically, you can think of systems level as farm to fork. Be thinking as broadly as possible within the agricultural system. We're not thinking very narrowly as far as what that system is. So that's about as much detail as I can provide. I think it's really up to the applicant to propose it, and we will tell you in a letter of intent whether it's accepted or invited or not. But we get a fair number of applications that focus on a very narrow component of the production system. So, for example, in dairy production, on the milking system, that portion of it, and that is not what we're thinking. We're thinking about the entire food chain in the dairy production system from before cow to the retail. The broader you can make it, the more likely it will be successful.
Thanks, Mark. Another question, are planning grants included under standard grants?
So we're not offering planning grants right now within AFRI. We have not offered them for several years. So the priorities are listed for all the different programs, and the grant types are listed there as well.
Thanks, Mark. And at this point, I will just want to introduce an important point here, that the information that's presented during the webinar and during the Q&A is the most current information that we have at this time. But please verify that in the RFA, the accurate and the most timely language that you should adhere to. So I just want to put that out there for the presentations to come and the Q&A that will also follow. The RFA will be kind of the final guidance regarding each program. Mark, one more question before we move on. For a postdoctoral grant, does the research topic proposed have to be vastly different from the faculty mentors program?
No, I think it should be related to the faculty mentors topic area or subject matter. I mean, that's why you're in that postdoc, to get that sort of training. It can't be exactly what the mentor is doing. In other words, the postdoctoral fellow can't take over an existing project and then propose that. They can't take over an existing project that's already being conducted by the mentor's lab and then propose that. But I think it most likely needs to be very closely related to what the mentor's doing. Otherwise, it's probably not going to be reviewed very well. The reviewer is going to question why they're being mentored in that lab when the topic is so different. So I would say it's better for it to be closely related than to be vastly different.
Thanks, Mark.
But it needs to be different. And I'll just add, not for these questions, but the AFRI program has several FAQ, frequently asked questions pages. And if you Google AFRI, NIFA AFRI FAQ, you'll get a listing of those very quickly. And we have them by RFA as well as by program. Leland, do you have anything to add?
Oh, in some of the questions, I posted the AFRI resources page, which has those documents as well. So you can find documents that have that distinguish between the different grant types, in addition to the most successful and least successful institutions.
Thank you, Leland.
So Edwin, can I answer a question really quickly? We have a lot of questions that are about whether you can submit more than one application. And I don't want to type that answer so many times, but so you are allowed to submit more than one proposal to any AFRI program area priority given that the topics are different. So if you're eligible for a seed grant, you can submit a seed grant and a standard grant as long as the topics are different and you're eligible for both grant types. Now that is for the same program area priority or two different program area priorities.
And
So-
as Tim said, as long as the grants are different.
Yes.
There is one caveat. You can only submit one seed grant to all AFRI programs within one fiscal year. So you
Thank you,
can
Mark.
submit multiple grants, but only one seed grant.
Very helpful. Thank you, Mark, Leland. Tim, thanks for chiming in and responding to that question as well. There are a number of other questions in the chat. As I mentioned before, we will have time at the end of our 5th presentation. We'll open it up for Q&A regarding all the presentations for today. But at this point, we want to introduce Deputy Director Deb Hemmerneck. She's our Deputy Director for the Institute of Food Production and Sustainability. At this time, we're going to ask Deb to give us a welcome and introduction.
Sure. Thank you, Edwin. And my apologies. I had a lot of technical problems joining the Zoom webinar today. Not sure what was going on, but I do just want to welcome you to NIFA's Grant Support Technical Assistance Workshop. And as Edwin mentioned, I'm a Deputy Director for the Institute of Food Production and Sustainability. We also call that IFPS in NIFA. So IFPS is NIFA's largest science institute with about 70 full-time employees, and we manage about half of NIFA's budget for competitive programs. You're going to hear more about these competitive programs here as soon as I finish. But NIFA's 2023 fiscal year appropriation was about $2.2 billion total. And about 60% of that $2 billion is spent on competitive programs. So competitive programs is an area that Congress likes to support, and we have a number of NIFA staff that administer these competitive programs. So this includes about 70 funding lines in the 2023 NIFA appropriations. And you heard about AFRI, that's our largest and broadest competitive grant program in NIFA. And then later you'll hear about some of the other competitive programs. Some of these funding lines have more than one program area priority. We've heard about, you'll hear about some of those again later today and tomorrow. And some of the program area priorities have more than one peer review panel. So again, especially in AFRI and in the Small Business Innovative Research Program. So a lot of different ways these competitive programs are administered. And we have many NIFA staff that spend most of their time working with these competitive grant programs. And you're going to hear from more of those today as well as tomorrow. So in earlier webinars this week, you heard about the content of the request for applications that describes the type of projects we're looking for and the priorities for those projects. And even today, we heard about the importance of the request for applications. So please do make sure you read and review those requests for applications or RFAs. There's a lot of good information in there that you want to hear before you start to write your application. You also heard about the peer review process, I think, yesterday, and you saw an example of a mock peer review panel. So you should understand more about the NIFA process for evaluating these competitive projects. And as with any competition, right, there's going to be winners or people that do receive funding and then people that don't receive funding. We just don't have enough funding to support all of the applications that are submitted to our competitive programs. So we want to make sure you understand our process, understand the priorities of the programs, and so that you can write the best application that will have the best chance for being competitive in these programs. We don't want you to waste a lot of time on applications that are not a good fit for the program. And we don't want to waste the time of our reviewers, our peer reviewers, who are faculty or scientists from universities or the private sector or federal laboratories, right? Everybody's busy. We don't want to waste reviewer times as well. Many of the people you see on this screen and you've heard speak at these webinars were former faculty members before they joined NIFA. So we know that at many land-grant universities, in order for new, especially early career scientists to get promoted or to get tenured, they have to receive a competitive grant to support their independent research or teaching or extension activities. And so one of the purposes of all these webinars is to help applicants, especially the early career scientist or the scientist at minority serving institutions, better understand the NIFA peer review process so that they can in fact be more competitive for NIFA funding. We've started to conduct these technical assistance webinars for all NIFA competitive programs that release their request for applications, or RFA. So you'll see those on our website, see them listed on our website. If you subscribe to the NIFA update, you'll get a schedule and information on how to connect to those webinars. Usually they're conducted about 2 to 3 weeks after the RFA is released. That will give you an opportunity to ask specific questions about what that program is looking for. And so again, just want to encourage you to participate in as many of those NIFA technical assistance webinars as you can, because we want to see the best applications, right? The most innovative ideas, novel ideas. It's through the scientists at universities and federal labs in the private sector that NIFA accomplishes its mission. So we rely on you to submit the best quality applications for our limited amount of funding. So thank you again for attending this webinar. I hope you find this information useful as you write and submit applications to NIFA competitive programs in the future. And I just want to remind you that we're really interested in your feedback on the content and format and timing of all these grant writing workshops we're doing this week. We would really appreciate your feedback on content or format or anything you have to say about these webinars, grant writing workshop webinars this week. There is an email list, I think, in the email address in the information that's been provided to you. So please do submit comments and feedback to us. We'll use your comments and feedback as we design these future webinars for next year. So thanks again, everybody. Thanks for the time. And Edwin, I'll turn it back to you. Thanks.
Thanks, Deb. Really appreciate that. Welcome. At this point, we will move on to our next presentation. That will be our presentation on the education and outreach programs. Our presenters will be Ray Alley and Kellyanne Jones-Jamgard. So at this point, Tim, if you could share their slides, and we will turn it over to Ray and Kellyanne.
Okay, thank you kindly, Dr. Edwin, and good morning, everyone. I am Ray Alley, and I'm a National Program Leader with NIFA, with a portfolio predominantly in education and workforce development for the graduate portfolio, and I'm joined by Dr. Kellyanne Jones-Jamgard. So, Dr. Kellyanne, you just want to say a quick welcome?
Sure, thank you, Ray. Hi, everyone. Kellyanne Jones-Jamgard. I'm a national program leader in the Division of Community and Education, and most of my portfolio is related to workforce development at minority serving institutions. I'm happy to be here. Thanks.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you kindly, ma'am. And we can go ahead and start down this road together. So next slide, please. Okay, my colleague, Dr. Mark Mirando, already provided information pertaining to the USDA's non-discrimination statement. It's listed here as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so in attempting to encapsulate the education and outreach portfolio within NIFA, if you were to take all of the programs within the portfolio, they would fall within the following predominant thematic considerations of it all. So the first is education and outreach programs support human and social components of the agency's food and agricultural sciences mission through research, education, and extension functions. These programs look to strengthen the continuum of individuals, youth, families, communities, and institutions, and they can be grouped within the broad parameters of learning and engagement, or workforce development for the next generation of food and agricultural science professionals, as well as capacity building programs. Next slide, please. Okay, so these competitive programs mechanically or architecturally can be divided into two groups. They're within the AFRI programs, as Dr. Miranda shared earlier, and these are covered under the Education and Workforce Development component of the Agriculture and Food Research Initiative. Speaking of which, the Education and Workforce Development RFA for fiscal year 23 was posted on May 2nd, so just about 8 days ago. So there are AFRI programs as well as non-AFRI programs with their separate legislative authorities. Next slide, please. Okay, so within the Education and Workforce Development RFA, in essence, the programs look to support projects that focus on professional development opportunities for K-14 education professionals, non-formal education activities to cultivate interest in the food and agricultural sciences amongst youth, workforce training at community junior and technical colleges, the training of undergraduate students in research and extension, as well as pre-doctoral and postdoctoral fellowships for pre-doctoral candidates and postdoctoral scholars. So those focus areas within the Education and Workforce Development RFA are mechanized through these respective programs, the professional development for agricultural literacy, the research and extension experiences for undergraduates, and others, food and agricultural non-formal education programs that are listed on this slide. Of note, potentially within the Educational Workforce Development RFA, you have this listing of programs with different programmatic teams that are responsible for shepherding these programs, as well as different deadline dates and opportunities thereof. Okay. Next slide, please. So there are also quite a listing of non-agriculture and food research initiative programs. And these are competitive programs that are not AFRI related and hence stem, no pun intended, but stem from their own respective legislative authorities. So examples are capacity building grants for non-land grant colleges of agriculture, the equipment grants program, the Higher Education Multicultural Scholars Program, and the Children, Youth, and Families at Risk Program. Next slide, please. Other examples are those listed on this slide. So secondary education, 2-year post-secondary education in agriculture, and the K-12 Classroom Challenge Grants Program, women and minorities in STEM, as well as the National Needs Graduate Fellowship Grants Program. So if you look at the continuum, if you will, of student support programs, there are opportunities for student support from the K through the postgraduate levels, okay? And they're encapsulated through these AFRI and non-AFRI programs. There are also opportunities for projects that support curriculum and instruction and professional development as well within that education or workforce training sector. Next slide, please. So with respect to the portfolio, if you will, of education and outreach, there are considerations to broaden participation. Within AFRI, there are food and agricultural science enhancement grants, and these consist of new investigator grants to pre- and postdoctoral fellowships and strengthening grants. And within the strengthening grants, there are opportunities for small to mid-sized institutions, EPSCoR institutions, minority serving institutions that meet certain criteria. Within the non-AFRI programs, these projects also look to find innovative solutions to issues related to the broad tapestry of the food and agricultural sciences and eligibility, if you will, for those respective grant programs that there are quite a number of them that I just shared earlier are housed within the RFA and stem from the respective legislative authority. Next slide, please. Okay, so with respect to the myriad of opportunities for funding, we often share with potential applicants to immerse themselves within the RFA and the funding opportunity itself. So this is a way to do it. Mechanically, it would be to visit the funding opportunities page within the NIFA website. And once you do, once you access a page for a specific program, you'll be able to find a request for applications, locate the contact information for the program team that is responsible for that program, and also be able to obtain additional informational resources as well. Again, particular and specific to that respective program. Next slide, please. So this is an example of a funding opportunities page where you see the names of programs under the respective funding opportunities. So you will click on the program name to learn more information. And again, an example here is the capacity building grants for non-land grant colleges of agriculture. Next slide, please. And not by chance, this was actually by accident. So if you're looking at the capacity building grants for non-land grant colleges of agriculture program, you can utilize the button here indicated by number 1 in that respective triangle to download the RFA. And then each respective program will host a technical webinar when the RFA is published that will be held prior to the application deadline. Registration information, video recording, questions and answers, and that information can be accessed via that page. Next slide, please. Okay, and then again, continuing along, you can access, there's a program page as well. So there's a funding opportunities page and a program page for more information about the program. And then you can also see who the program contact is for the respective program. Okay, so if you'd like to reach out to the program contact with specific questions, then that can be addressed by this means as well. Next slide, please. Okay. So again, that was a very, very broad topical touch upon the number of AFRI and non-AFRI competitive grants program within programs within the education and outreach arena. And I believe, Dr. Lewis, this would be a time for any questions and answers. And I would invite my colleague, Dr. Kellyanne, with any additional comments as well. Thank you. And thank you for your time and your consideration and your interest in these programs. We appreciate it. Dr. Kellyanne?
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Ray. I think the only thing I'll add is I know we have a very diverse audience on these webinars, representing lots of different organizations. So I would say don't, just based on the title of a program, think you may be excluded from applying. Please check the RFAs for eligibility for any program that has a topic area that you're interested in. Many of our RFAs, including AFRI, have very broad eligibility, not just institutions of higher education, but also nonprofits and other types of organizations. So please check the eligibility or get in contact with the national program leader and program staff for any opportunity you're interested in to make sure that you're eligible, but don't, count yourself out just right off the bat.
Great, Ray, Kellyanne, really appreciate the presentation. At this point, we will move into questions and answers. One question, and some of these cross over to AFRI programs as well. And Ray, you did mention some AFRI opportunities that were education related. One question was, and our AFRI colleagues can chime in as well, What are the advantages of applying for AFRI grant as a new investigator?
So I believe Suresh is typing the answer to that. So for new
Okay.
investigators, but I'll answer it nevertheless. For new investigators, you compete with all the other standard grants. If it's a new investigator standard grant, you compete with all the other standard grants, including very experienced and successful applicants. If you come out above the funding line, then you get funded just like the senior colleagues. If you're below the funding line, the programs are expected to fund one or more new investigators below the funding line. So you have a second opportunity. Basically, you have 2 bites at the apple. That's for new investigator standard grants. For new investigator seed grants, you're competing for a grant type. Seed grants are to collect preliminary data, and new investigators generally are starting out and may not have a preliminary data. And the success rates of those seed grants are generally higher in that program than they are for the success rates for standard grants. So if you don't have preliminary data, apply for a new investigator seed grant if you're eligible. If you aren't eligible, if you have preliminary data, maybe you want to apply for a new investigator standard grant. And it doesn't matter whether you check the box or not. If you're eligible, we're going to call you a new investigator because it increases your chances of funding.
Mark, thanks for responding to that. Question about REEU. Can REEU be used to support our students to other institutions during the summer? Can they use the
Yes.
Yeah.
And with respect to the RFA, and again, you know, pertaining to specific questions about specific programs, I would gently counsel people to dive into the respective RFA. However, per the Education and Workforce Development RFA, as an example, and this is indicated in the writing of the RFA, that at least 50% of the undergraduate students supported must come from outside the host institution or organization. Thank you.
Thanks, Ray. Another question, are there equipment grants for non-strengthening grants? Are there equipment grants for non-strengthening grants?
Okay, I would offer as well with respect to the RFA for the equipment grants, potentially to dip into the respective program teams and the RFA and the program context for the equipment. But the equipment grants with respect to AFRI are 2 separate authorities, hence the strengthening component not necessarily being addressed there. Thank you.
Thanks, Ray. We have a little bit more time before we move on, and still seeing a lot of questions related to AFRI, and those who are also helping us to monitor, if you see some education specific ones that you'd like to chime in on, please do. But let me go ahead and lift up 1 or 2 of the ones that were submitted earlier. Do we need to present preliminary results for a phase grant as a PD from an EPSCoR state? Did we already respond to that one in the Q&A? If not, would someone like to take that?
So for strengthening grants from EPSCoR states, if it's a standard grant, you're going to need preliminary data. It's a standard grant in all respects. Again, the difference between a strengthening standard grant and a regular standard grant is that there's a set aside for funding and you get 2 bites at the apple. So there's an increased opportunity for funding. If you don't have the preliminary data, then you should be and you're starting out in a new project, you should be submitting for a strengthening seed grant. And that would not require preliminary data. But for standard grants, preliminary data is part of quality, and quality of preliminary data is part of the review criteria.
Thanks, Mark. Question related to pre and postdoc. Are pre and postdoc fellowships under EWD the same as those under phase grants?
Yes.
Thank you, Ray. Are there grants for starting graduate programs in NIFA-related areas? Capacity grants for starting graduate programs? Are there competitive or capacity grants for starting graduate programs?
If it's amenable, I can give this a shot. I would generally suggest the questioner there to look into the national needs graduate fellowships grants program that provides stipend and student support for new graduate students, or one of the funding considerations or parameters there is the establishment of new graduate programs and the novelty and innovation and the recruitment training of graduate students thereof. That RFA is open. The competition is live, and I believe the application deadline is June 8th. That is a non-AFRI separate authority program, but I digress. Thank you, Dr. Kellyanne.
No worries. And I'll also add that, depending on the type of institution, there are many grant programs within our education portfolio that will support curriculum development. And so that would definitely be amenable for, starting a new degree program. So it just really depends on your institution type, your topic area, and which RFA you would be eligible for.
Great, thank you. Another question, if someone who has received NIFA grants through their capacity funding at their institutions, are they eligible to apply for a new investigator standard or seed grant? So if they've been working on it from capacity funds, are they still eligible for new investigator standard or seed grants?
Mark can correct me, but those are non-competitive funds. So I don't believe that formula funds eliminate the eligibility of someone from competitive new investigator status. Is that correct, Mark?
Yes, that's correct. It's new investigators. You can't have had federal competitive grant funding. So that's the key. The project director can't have had competitive, federal competitive grant funding. So if it's capacity funding, that is not counted against the applicant. And if it's from the private sector, it's also not counted against the applicant's eligibility. Thanks, Tim.
Great, thank you both. I think we have time for maybe one or two more questions. Lots of questions regarding new investigators. Another question, the new investigator grant include assistants, professors within 3 years of hiring, even though they have worked in previous institutions on research. Is that accurate?
So, go ahead, Mark.
Go ahead, Tim. Go ahead, Tim.
No, I was going to, so it's not so much about the hiring at the institution, but when are they eligible to submit for federal grants? So if at their previous institution, they were able to submit as a lead project director for federal grants, then their 5 years would have started at that institution. For instance, before I came to NIFA, I had a soft money position, but I was also able to submit as a lead project director to AFRI. So my clock started, even though I didn't have tenure, when I was eligible to submit as lead project director for federal grants in AFRI. So it's not so much that you're an assistant professor, but it's when are you eligible to submit and manage grants on your own for an eligible institution in AFRI.
Thanks, Tim. Let's take one more question before we move on to the next presentation. So the question is, if you completed the PhD program, if I've completed a PhD program but haven't joined a new research group by the application deadline, am I eligible for the postdoctoral fellowship program?
Sure. I can give this a shot. Okay. With respect to eligibility for the postdoctoral fellowship program, per the Code of Federal Regulations, the eligibility window is satisfaction of the doctoral degree requirements no earlier than January 1st of 3 years prior to the application deadline, and then up to 9 months after the application deadline. So you're looking for a smidge above a 3-year plus several month window. From the certain perspective with regards to the predoctoral and postdoctoral fellowship programs, their purpose is to develop leadership and new professionals within the food and agricultural sciences. So contained therein, with respect to the proposal, there's a focus upon novelty and innovation in the training, the mentoring, the career development, and the project itself. With respect to postdoctoral fellowships, that continuum, there is a focus upon independence, okay, as this person is going to be developing their own independent area of study. And so that's a way I would phrase that response, and there would necessarily be a reasonable attachment to some group or to some lab with respect to the project plan itself. Okay. Thank you. And I believe Dr. Miranda as well has his hand.
And I think the other part of what they may have been asking, the question was a little unclear, is they can be at one institution finishing up their PhD and apply by the deadline. Everything has to be submitted by the deadline to start a postdoc at another institution. So they don't have to be at that new institution yet in order to apply, as long as they're within that the time frame of having completed their PhD, as Dr. Ali mentioned. So sometimes that means applying from your current institution and then moving the grant before it's awarded. And sometimes you can get the new institution to submit the application on your behalf. But that can be done, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ray, but that can also be done for the predoctoral fellowship as well. They don't have to be at the institution when they submit, but it's going to have to be awarded to that institution if they're recommended.
Absolutely, Mark. Absolutely spot on. Although I would offer it's somewhat rarer, more rare, if you will, for the pre-docs, and there would be more of a frequency with regards to the postdocs as well. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Mark and Ray, really appreciate your assistance with that question. At this point, we'll prepare for our third presentation. So the next presentation is on the small business innovation research and small business technology transfer. Our presenters are Narun Nahar and Tim Connor. Tam, if you are ready, you can share their presentation and we will turn it over to Narun and Tim.
Well, thank you very much, Edwin. And thank you also to my previous colleagues. Well, welcome to the Small Business Innovation Research and Small Business Tech Transfer Session, SBIR, STTR, as we call it, the acronyms. These are basically non-AFRI programs, but we want to share the overview here in this workshop. So next slide, please. So my colleague, Dr. Narun Nahar, and I are going to spend about 25 minutes or so providing you a high-level overview, high-level background of the program, mainly what and how, with some resources embedded in it. So without further delay, let's take a ride on the bus and start the journey. Next slide, please. Okay, thank you. So this is a summary statement for non-discrimination. You've heard it before several times, but oftentimes we have new attendees coming in and out. There is contact information for individuals with disabilities to request accommodations and information for language impaired or language access services as well that are provided, as well as there's information for anyone wanting to file a complaint. Contact information is there as well. Next slide, please. So SBIR, STTR programs basically provide seed funding to facilitate funding eligible small business commercialization of innovations. And really what's exciting about this from a small business perspective, and I may call them SBCs or small business concerns from time to time, is that the funding is basically non-dilutive. So, right, you're not diluting your ownership of the business when you get funding to do your research projects to fund those innovations. And it's also bragging rights or validation should you be one that's trying to acquire funds from maybe venture capitalists or other angel investors in the future as well. So that's sort of the upside for doing this if you're a small business. Eligibility is limited to US-owned small businesses, which is generally ascribed for this program as less than 501 employees. And there's some other specifics, but meaning, over 50% owned by a US entity. But also from a perspective of eligibility, those companies range in size from a company of 1 to a company of 500. So it's a pretty broad range of eligibility from a small business perspective. You see here 4 program goals, which are shared across the SBIR, STTR US enterprise. There are 11 participating agencies, of which USDA is one. But basically, they're focused in on really stimulating technology innovations, strengthening the role of small businesses, and fostering all types of innovations from various groups of innovators, diverse and other. The key thing here is that for over 30 years, we've recognized that there's a valley of death, and that is an innovator's valley of death, to where a lot of research is done, good research, but that research is not able to be translated into a commercialization, into something that a consumer will recognize, as well as something that can support US competitiveness around the globe. So the other things I want to put on this slide briefly is that the program is competitive for funding, and that the proposals are evaluated and awarded, and the ones that are awarded are primarily based upon high competitive merit on scientific and commercial components. So it's a little different to some of the other programs we have because it has both a scientific merit and a commercial component as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so when you look at the RFA for SBIR, STTR, you'll see roughly 10 topic areas, 10 topic areas exactly, actually. 2 of them are a little different than others, but when you look across these, the icons and the descriptions are pretty good at helping you figure out where to start, okay? And the innovation areas really are from laboratory to farm to fork to communities. So it's broad, it covers agriculture with a big A, disciplines, as well as those that impact rural communities that support agriculture. We won't go through these in details, but I encourage you to look at our webpage to see where you fit in here. And hopefully we believe there is a place for any ag innovator to fit. I will point out that the 2 in light blue here are topic areas that are a little bit different in that they also support innovations that we consider off the shelf, right? So maybe innovations that are already there that could be modified or can be researched from an ag perspective and employed or implemented into an ag fashion. Those 2 topic areas also support those types of innovations. Next slide, please. So the program has 3 phases for both SBIR and STTR. Both together, if you have both phase 1 and phase 2, those amounts could total in excess of $830,000. I would say that phase 1 is primarily proof of concept, which really is that sort of research around commercial efficacy. Phase 2 is primarily developmental research activities. So those things that take you in early to mid development, not scale up of something already demonstrated, but there's still a research component, but it's more focused clearly then on more refinement of the commercial concept. So sometimes a SPC is able to reach commercialization after phase 2, but we recognize a lot of the times it does in fact require a phase 3. Phase 3 is sort of a part of the program, but it is not funded through our program and SBIR, STTR funds cannot be used to support phase 3. Other federal mechanisms exist, but a lot of phase 3 support comes from venture capitalists or other investors. Next slide, please. So a few things we wanted to point out here. One is that, STTR is a new program that USDA just initiated this past year. But there are a few differences between them, which are important to recognize. We're really excited about adding STTR to our portfolio of projects because it adds a different dimension for innovation and discovery. So for STTR, you should note that it does require a cooperative agreement with a nonprofit research institution, and that could be a federal lab as well. You must have it. SBIR, we recommend or we encourage all types of collaborations, but for STTR, it is a must. The second thing I want to point out here is the amount of work that a small business has to complete. So for phase 1, the small business really sort of has to complete, really sort of a lot more of the project than for STTR. For STTR, you can see the numbers higher with the small business only having to, really complete as much as 40% of the program for both phase 1 and phase 2. So it's just important in recognizing that that's a key difference, and that cooperative agreement needs to reflect that amount of effort and work as well as rights coming out of it. The third thing I want to point out is that the PD, the project director or principal investigator, has to be employed by the small business for SBIR. For STTR, the PD or PI can be employed by either the SBC or a nonprofit research entity. So again, adds a lot of flexibility for a small business innovator. We already talked about the need to have a competitive agreement for STTR. So that's sort of where I wanted to sort of leave it at this point. I hope that provides a good overview of what SBIR, STTR is. Now I want to pass it over to my colleague, Dr. Nuhar, to explain a little bit more about how and resources that you may find useful. Narun?
Oh, thank you, Dr. Conner. Hi, I'm Nurul Nahar, a program specialist and working in the SBIR STTR programs. I welcome all of you to the Grant Support Technical Assistant Workshop. Dr. Conner covered a lot of differences and features and objective of SBIR STTR, and I'd like to share some helpful application assistant resource program to encourage small business applicants to explore and use these resources as appropriate. The first one, I'll try to pay attention that Small Business Development Centers is called SBDC. So those SBDC provide support to small business applying for SBIR STTR grants. There are 62 SBDC across the United States and at least one SBDC in each state. So this slide has the website link for the Small Business Development Center. The next one is the Federal and State Technology Partnership Program, or the FAST program. So these programs actually provide funding to increase the SBIR STTR awards to women, socially or economically disadvantaged individuals, small business in underrepresented areas, which are typically rural states. So both SBDC and FAST programs can actually help small business with some funding mechanism to pull together their proposals. Down in the bottom, you can see that a website, sbir.gov. This website is one of the most important one because this website lists all local assistance. You can pull down your state and it will provide or generate all the assistance organization. You'll have a list to go through and see which programs are available in your state, and you can choose which program and who you want to work with. So these are really great resources that all our applicants should be exploring. Next slide, please. Dr. Connor covered some of the features of our program. I will just mention a couple more things. One of the best feature in our program is that all the programs ideas have to be investigator initiated. We are a grant agency, NIFA. We provide RFA or solicitation that guide broader open areas under agriculture. And you saw that 10 diverse areas, but ideas are always investigator initiated. As an inventor or entrepreneur, you know the issue of your community or in X space, so you can come up with an idea which fit one of our big priority areas. So that's number one. Our awards are based on scientific and technical merit of your project and also the commercial potential. And that commercial potential piece is a little bit different than any other programs we have at NIFA. So these two actually weighted pretty evenly. Dr. Connor mentioned in phase one, more focus on scientific technical merit. But then in once moving to phase two, you are still focused on technical scientific merit, but then commercial potential comes up and a little bit more. In phase three, it's all commercial potential that you are really focusing on. The other options that we like to point out that we encourage subcontracting to universities and federal labs. And once you are kind of looking at the difference between SBIR and STTR, you recognize that this sort of subcontracting is encouraged for an SBIR program. But if you are choosing for STTR program, that's a must, that's a requirement to make it. We also encourage to develop a cooperative research and development agreement. Shortly, we call it CRADA, with a federal lab or federal license innovation. CRADA is actually very important. CRADA agreements are one of the only ways to receive a preference with SBIR, meaning if the two applications are judged by the peer panel to be equal merit and one has CRADA, the other one does not, the one with the CRADA will have the advantage. So please pay attention and try to work with the ARS and others to make a CRADA agreement. We also offer technical and business assistance, shortly called TABA. TABA introduced as part of John McCain National Defense Authorization Act. The purpose of TABA is actually to help boost the business side of your project to make it successful. TABA can include IP legal cost, marketing, market research, financial review, consult on funding strategy, different activities related to manufacturing. But this is not a comprehensive list, just common items that you can use your TABA fund for. Next slide, please. So some of the broadening participation, the SBIR STTR programs are designed to support small independent US farms and to ensure that only these type of farms are receiving program funds. All awardee are required to certify at the time of award that the awardee farms meet the size, ownership, and the control requirements of the farm. So one of the things, only for-profit small business are eligible. Dr. Connor mentioned that small business meaning from 1 to 500 employees, any nonprofit organization is not allowed to do that. Each applicant submitting an application must qualify as a small business concern, we call it SBC, through registration with the SBA for research or research and development purposes. SBIR and STTR programs also encourage underrepresented groups and women-owned business to apply. We also encourage companies located in the distressed areas or the hub zone, and they get a little bit preferential consideration. Hub zones are actually historically underutilized business zone. To qualify for the Hub Zone program, your business must cover as a small business that we discussed before, and then also at least 51% owned and controlled by US citizen. But two other things for the Hub Zone criteria is have its principal office located in a hub zone, number one. Number two, have at least 35% of its employee living in a hub zone. So if you are thinking to apply in this criteria to confirm if an area is currently designated under hub zone, please check out the map tool. Every 5 years of the hub zone program update their designation to ensure the program continues to serve the community they are needing assistance. So to be honest, this year in July, they will be updating this map again to confirm if the area will remain in a hub zone on July 1st, 2023. When the map is updated, please check the preview map. Next slide, please. So there are many success stories of the SBIR funded project that we are proud of. Today, I want to share a few success stories to give a little bit of flavor of the success of the innovation that we see through our program. The first one as a recent success story is the Prairie Aquatech. Prairie Aquatech is a technology company based in Brookings, South Dakota. They are working on improving animal health and nutrition by providing high quality feed ingredients. So they have developed actually a natural process that converts soybean meal to fish feed by using microbial enhancement. The name of their product is MePro. They have had much commercialization success, to be honest. They are currently producing 30,000 tons of MePro, and they have 30,000 square feet facility that they are commissioned in the summer of 2019 because they needed to ramp up production that much. So we are very happy for their success. Next one, please. So there are two recent success stories I'll share. The first one is the Sunside Wind. It's based on Lawrenceville, Georgia. It's a minority-owned small business. Sunside developed a very exciting technology. They developed an advanced extended blade wind turbine that increases energy production at low and moderate wind speeds at very lower cost. Their small wind turbines fit on a rooftop and they compete with the solar rooftop technology. We're very happy for their success. The second one is the Stony Creek Colors, a Springfield, Tennessee-based manufacturer of natural indigo dye. They have developed an agricultural supply chain to replace synthetic dyes with plant-based drop-in solutions. The name of their product, they call it BioPreferred. They have had great commercialization success with this natural indigo dyes. They have sold to leading world-brand customers like denim brands and artisans. Sarah Bellows is a woman, the founder and CEO of the Stony Creek Colors. They are achieving a lot. We are really happy for them. Next slide, please. So if we are kind of going through a little bit of broader overview, but if you like to kind of look at the RFA and know much more information about SBIR STTR program, I always encourage you to visit our website. But visit also the funding opportunities page, because this funding opportunities page will be helpful to find the RFA or request for application. You can look at different programs, including SBIR STTR programs. You can find the right contact information and also some other assistant like technical assistant resources. Next one, please. So this is an example in picture. Once you go to the funding opportunity pages, you can find different programs. Here we are showing crop protection and pest management or capacity building, but you could just type in SBIR STTR, that will pop up. Once you click on the program, then you will have a lot more other information, such as, next slide, please. On the bottom on the triangle, you can see number 1 and number 2. Anytime you go to a program, you can always download the most recent updated request for application or RFA. Next to the RFA, you will see the second button is a technical assistance webinar. The webinar is always held for our program before the application due date. So the registration information, even the recording of the webinar, all would be found in these buttons. So please visit those and try to get the information from our funding opportunity pages. 2 more, please. Next slide. So the third one, once you scroll down to the same page of the funding opportunities page, you can access the program page, and program page might have some more information in terms of as an applicant, what you need to know, what are the priority areas, a lot of information you could look at our programs page. And the number 4, you can also look at the program staff contact information. And we always encourage, if you have any question, please try to reach out program staff contact just for clarification before you submit your application. So this is a good spot to find the staff contact. But another best one, I will say, once you download the RFA always will have the program contact information. So there are multiple ways you can find those contact information. Next slide, please. If you have any general query about the SBIR STTR programs, we encourage you to post your email to sbir@usda.gov. Send us an email with any question or concerns, so we can clarify that. But if you have any question today, please put your question in the Q&A box, not on the general chat, and Dr. Konar and I will try to answer your question. Thank you for your attention.
Great. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Narun, for that presentation on SBIR and the Small Business Technology Transfer Programs. At this time, we do not have any unanswered questions in our Q&A. So great job to our team. So let's move on to our next presentation. This is our 4th presentation on animal health and production and animal products. The speakers will be Tim Sullivan and Sierra Caceres. So Tammy, could you share their slides, and we'll turn it over to Tim and Sierra.
Thank you, Edwin. And thanks everybody for hanging on. See, there's still more than 500 people. It's impressive. I'm just waiting for Tammy to share the slides, and then I'll get going. Thank you, Tammy. All right, so as Edwin said, now we're going to transition and talk about AHPAP, Animal Health and Production and Animal Products, which is the programs that are covered under the Division of Animal Systems. I am Tim Sullivan. I'm an NPL. My background is aquaculture, animal health, and biotechnology, and I'm joined by Sierra Caceres, who is a program specialist in the same division. Next slide, Tammy. So we've showed this one a couple times now. This is the non-discrimination statement. If you'd like to read it in detail, obviously there's the link there. Leave it up for a couple seconds. Next slide, Tammy. All right, so the mission of animal health and production and animal products is to ensure high quality, quantity, and diversity of animal products as components of healthy diets, to improve the security, safety, and resilience of the animal-based food supply, and improve the competitiveness and sustainability of all forms of animal agriculture. Next slide, Tammy. So in AHPAP, we have a number of goals. You'll see that they span production and health. We fund projects that are focused on supporting animal disease through either diagnostics, preventative care, or treatment. We determine how to measure animal well-being and welfare and improve methods to monitor responses to stress. We fund research in fertility and other aspects of animal reproduction, also nutrition and growth in both terrestrial livestock and aquaculture species. We fund projects to improve animal nutrition and growth, nutrient utilization. The Division of Animal Systems provides leadership for all federal aquaculture programs through the Joint Subcommittee on Aquaculture to support increasing demands for seafood as a healthy animal protein. And we fund projects to enhance U.S. biosecurity in agriculture through the prevention and monitoring of either emerging or transboundary diseases that would impact both producers and the public at large. Next slide, Tammy. So I'm going to cover two different types of programs. So there'll be AFRI programs, and then I will briefly cover non-AFRI programs. And I divided the AFRI programs into what I called core programs and then cross-cutting programs. And Mark talked a bit about cross-cutting programs when he covered AFRI, which is good because I won't have to go into such great detail. Next slide, Tammy. All right, so these are the sort of what I'm calling the core AFRI programs in animal health and production and animal products. So if you're searching the RFA for a particular topic or program area priority, these are the AFRI codes. So A1201, animal breeding, genetics, and genomics. A1211, animal reproduction. A1221, diseases of agricultural animals. A1231, animal nutrition, growth, and lactation. And A1251, welfare of agricultural animals. So you can see that these topic or program area priorities mirror the goals that I talked about on the earlier slide for the division. Next slide, please. So this AHPAP also engages in a number of cross-cutting programs. So A1181, agricultural biosecurity, that is a program that supports prevention, surveillance, response, and recovery to transboundary or emerging diseases and pests. So it's both a plant and animal program. A1261, interdisciplinary engagement in animal systems. This is a program that supports approaching agricultural questions from multiple disciplinary angles. So things like social and hard science. Data science for food and agricultural systems. I think Mark mentioned care. He also talked about. Yes, Mark covered these four in his original AFRI presentation, but animal systems is a part of those programs, and those programs do support projects that involve animal agriculture. Next slide, please. There are a few non-AFRI programs that we wanted to mention. The BRAG program, Biotechnology Risk Assessment Research Grants, that focuses on, as the name suggests, risk assessment for biotechnology applications. So those may be gene-edited animals or microbes, and understanding the risks and managing the risks that they may pose. The Special Research Grants for Aquaculture, that program supports applied aquaculture research that has a relatively short turnaround between the research outcomes and industry utilization. So applied projects that have rapid acceptance by potential industry. The Veterinary Services Grant Program provides support to either expand veterinary services or to fund veterinary extension projects. And the newest of the non-AFRI programs is the Laying Hen and Turkey Research Program. So that project is running for the first time this year, and it supports laying hens and turkeys and research specifically on production and health issues related to those two species. Next slide, Tammy. So in terms of broadening participation, Mark talked a lot about phase, and we've covered phase eligibility. One of the things that I do want to point out is there are a number of programs in the core group for AHPAP that do provide partnership opportunities. So I've got them listed here on this slide. And that partnership, if the primary applicant is partnering with a eligible institution. Now, what that means is either a phase eligible institution or an international institution. You can request up to an additional $150,000 with the caveat that that money goes to support the activities of the partnering eligible institution. So it sort of incentivizes broader collaborations by, not reducing the number of direct funds that could go to the lead project director. We have a number of programs that also take part in tripartite collaborative opportunities, so that if you look in the AFRI Foundation of Applied Science RFA, it'll describe what the tripartite is, but it supports research that brings together US researchers and researchers both from Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. The benefit to this tripartite collaborative opportunity is that NIFA will fund the US portion of the work, and the researchers from the other countries will receive support from their various funding agencies. So by collaborating, more funds are devoted to a specific research topic. Next slide, please, Tammy. I wanted to make one plug since I gave this talk. I actually managed a co-lead A1221, which is diseases of agricultural animals. And in the current RFA, we've solicited applications for a tribal animal health coordination network. We will make one award focused on building a community around tribal animal health issues and creating a comprehensive direction to guide needed research that addresses tribal animal production concerns in a way that matches the tribal community and their needs. So if anyone is interested in that topic specifically, you can search A1221 in the RFA and it will bring up my email, and I'd be happy to meet with you about it. Next slide, Tammy. So I think Narun just went through these, but I can go through it as well. The funding opportunity page and that link is very useful for looking up information about specific programs. That's where you can find the RFA. So next slide, Tammy. So this is what that page looks like, and you can scroll through all of the open opportunities and click on any of them to bring up their specific pages. That's what this page will look like. Especially for non-AFRI programs, this page can be really important because yes, you can download the RFA and access recordings of the webinar, but you also you'll be able to easily access the email for the program contact. So that email number 4 here, the staff contact, that's usually the MPL, who it's always good to connect with them. Each program has nuances, especially the non-AFRI ones, and connecting with the MPL to make sure that you understand everything that the panel considers or get information about previous awards, what's been successful, what's not so successful can be useful as you develop proposals. So those are really useful things. And, my experience before I came to NIFA and now that I've been here 3 years is that MPLs are always happy to meet with people who are going to be applying to the program, because helping to receive the best quality applications makes the things we fund more effective. So next slide, Tammy. Yeah, if anyone has questions, feel free. But I think that's it for us right now. Anyway, I don't see any Q&A bubbles, so I think we might be good, Edwin.
I think you're right. Thanks, Tim. Really appreciate that
Either
presentation.
that or I lulled everyone to sleep. Well, I don't know. We'll find
No,
out.
You have a strong team working behind the scenes. Great job. So with that being said, we will move on to our last presentation for today. That's going to be on plant health and production and plant products. Our presenters for this session will be Erica Kistner-Thomas and John Erickson. So Tammy, if you are ready, we can share their slides and we'll turn it over at this point to Erica and John.
Excellent. Thank you, Edwin. I think, okay, here we go. And I know Erica mentioned she was having some internet issues periodically, so hopefully she'll be able to join us as well. But I'll kick things off here talking about some of the programs that are administered or co-administered through the plant systems divisions, along with Erica, as Edwin mentioned. And we will talk about programs and RFAs that are offered through the plant health and production and plant products, or PHP priority area of NIFA, the AFRI area of NIFA, as well as a number of non-AFRI programs. And since this area includes a lot of programs that are administered through two divisions, including the Plant Systems Production Division and the Plant Systems Protection Division. My name is John Erickson. I'm a National Program Leader for Plant Physiology and Plant Biotechnology programs, and I'm housed in the Plant Systems Production Division. And I'll turn it over to Erica here to introduce herself.
Hello, I'm Erica Kistner-Thomas. I'm a National Program Leader in the Division of Plant Protection. I manage programs related to pollinator health, pest and beneficial species, as well as managing our citrus portfolio of citrus greening disease. Thanks, John.
Great, thanks, Erica. Next slide, please. And so, as you've seen several times today, our non-discrimination statement, USDA does not tolerate discrimination in any form. And for those that have any reasonable accommodation requests, you can reach out to the information provided here. And just summarize lastly with the USDA is equal opportunity provider, employer, and lender. So next slide, please. So as mentioned, we'll be talking about programs that are kind of within the plant production or co-administered at least through plant production and plant protection divisions. Next slide, please. We'll start as the previous groups have done by kind of highlighting the general goals or areas that the plant production division works in. Plant production supports organic farming methods and issues related to organic certification and economics. We support research systems-based processes to discover solutions to specialty crop production issues. We catalyze advancements in plant breeding, genetics, genomics, and data science, including assessments of bioengineering risks. And finally, conduct research on plant biological mechanisms to find solution to drought and other abiotic stresses, and pest resistance to increase yields and nutritional values of crops. Next slide.
For plant protection, we address food security and sustainability challenges with focus on maintaining healthy and productive crops and ecosystems. Research area priorities include reducing crop losses through investigation of strategies to improve food security, promote fundamental and applied research, extension, and educated related to pests, such as insects, diseases, weeds, and others like nematodes, and their management, provide oversight and coordination for regional integrated pest management centers and the National Plant Diagnostic Network, and finally support evaluation of pest management materials and methods.
Next slide, please.
Next slide.
All right, so similar to the other areas that you've seen, we'll be dividing these up into our AFRI programs, which are found in the Foundational and Applied Sciences RFA of AFRI. And like the others, we have our core programs, as well as some of the cross-cutting programs that our area participates in, along with other areas. And then we have quite a few non-AFRI programs in this area, and we'll try to cover those as well, just to give you a flavor of what is available through these divisions. Next slide, please. So I'll start with some of the ones that are found in the AFRI FAST RFA, and for plant production that includes A1102. This is a foundational knowledge of agricultural production systems program. We have A1103, which is the foundational knowledge of plant products. We have our two breeding programs that are A1141, which is plant breeding for agricultural production, and A1143, which is conventional plant breeding for cultivar development. And we have our A1152, which is our physiology of agricultural plants. And we also participate with the AFRI commodity co-funding topics, which Mark mentioned earlier. This particular program is one that the commodity boards submit research topics to NIFA. And then when those topics are agreed upon, they provide funding together with NIFA, usually roughly a 50-50 co-funding for these particular topics. So, Erica?
Yeah, for plant protection in AFRI, we have two large programs. The first one is A1112, Pest and Beneficial Species and Agricultural Production Systems. And this program focuses on the bio-based management of invasive and native pests in agricultural plant systems. And then we also have A1113, Pollinator Health Research and Application. And that just focuses on pollinators. Next slide. For cross-cutting programs, we have the Critical Agricultural Research and Extension, as well as, which is A1701. And then we have the Extension Education USDA Climate Hubs Partnership, A1721, Agricultural Biosecurity, A11181, and then Data Science and Food for in Agriculture, A1541, Agricultural Biosecurity, A11181, and we also have A1402, Agricultural Microbiomes in Plant Systems and Natural Resources. All of these programs are interdisciplinary, but do have components of plant production and protection. Next slide.
All right, so I'll take over. So again, the programs that we just covered, you can find all of those in the AFRI Foundational Applied Sciences RFA. So there'll be kind of sub-priority areas within that RFA. And now the programs that we're going to talk about are non-AFRI programs. So each of these will have their own different RFAs that you can find, we'll get to at the end here, as you've seen for some of the other programs. So we'll start with our Agricultural Genome to Phenome initiatives. So this program focuses on collaborative science engagement that intends to develop a community of researchers across both crops and animals that will lay the foundation for expanding knowledge concerning genomes and phenomes of importance to the agricultural sector of the United States. Our next program is our Organic Agricultural Research and Extension Initiative program. This program seeks to solve critical organic agricultural issues, priorities, or problems through the integration of research, education, and extension activities. We also have a similar organic program that's called the Organic Transitions Program. But the goal of this program is to support the development and implementation of research and extension and higher education programs to improve the competitiveness of organic livestock and crop producers, as well as those adopting organic practices. We also have a program called Potato Breeding. And the purpose of this is obviously to support potato research programs that focus on varietal development and testing of potato varieties for commercial production. We have our Alfalfa Seed and Alfalfa Forage Systems program. This program supports the development of improved alfalfa forage and seed production systems. We have our Biotechnology Risk Assessment Grants Research Program. This program supports the generation of new information that will assist the federal regulatory agencies, so FDA, EPA, and USDA APHIS, in making science-based decisions about the effects of introducing into the environment genetically engineered organisms. We also have the Supplemental Alternative Crops Program. This program supports projects that lead to the expanded adaptation and increased acreage in the U.S. of canola grown for oil and industrial hemp for value-added products. Next slide, please. We also have the Sustainable Agricultural Research and Education Program. This is a decentralized competitive grants program. There's 4 centers across the U.S. that then the competitive grants operate through those centers. And they focus on education programs and research and education programs operating in every state. Our Open Data Framework Program is intended to create a neutral and secure data repository and cooperative where producers, universities, and nonprofit entities can store and share data in ways that will foster agricultural innovation and support technological progress, production efficiencies, and environmental stewardship. Just a couple more here in production. We have the Specialty Crop Research Initiative. This program is intended to address the critical needs of the specialty crop industry by awarding grants to support research and extension that address key challenges of national, regional, and multi-state importance in sustaining all components of food and agriculture, including conventional and organic food production systems. And finally, recently we had the Urban, Indoor, and Emerging Agricultural Program. This program supported research, education, and extension work, awarding grants to solve key problems, again, of local, regional, and national importance to facilitate the development of urban, indoor, and emerging agricultural systems. Next slide, please.
In terms of plant protection non-AFRI programs, we have several. One of our largest ones is the Crop Protection and Pest Management, CPPM. And this program includes a variety of different types of grants, including applied research and development, regional coordination programs, extension implementation programs. And each of these 3 are different types of grants under those program areas of the Crop Protection and Pest Management Program. We also fund the National Plant Diagnostic Network. We have a methyl bromide and transition competitive grant program, the Emergency Citrus Disease Research and Extension Program, which funds research just to combat citrus greening disease. We also are involved in the Small Business Innovation Research Programs. Plant production and protection are covered under that. And then we also are involved in the Minor Crop Pest Management Program Interregional Research Project, number 4, also more commonly known as the IR4 program. Next slide. In terms of broadening our participation, we've already discussed strengthening grants earlier that create more funding opportunities for our minority serving institutions in the AFRI programs. And then for the A11141 and A11152 AFRI program areas, we do provide an additional 150,000 in additional fundings for partnerships with minority serving institutions or international institutions. Next slide. And then for the Pest and Beneficials Program, AFRI A1112, we participate in the tripartite collaborative opportunity, which enables collaboration between the US, Northern Ireland, and the Republic of Ireland. And then for the Organic Agricultural Research and Extension Initiative tier system, we do provide smaller awards of up to $1 million for institutions with limited capacity. Next slide.
All right, thanks, Erica. So again, we'll go through the resources for those that may have just joined for the plant health and production areas. So again, visit the funding opportunity pages available through the link here. And this link will help you find all of these programs that we've discussed here and the specific RFAs appropriate for each program. And so if you punch in that title that you saw there, you'll be able to locate the program, and that will give you more specific contact information. And for those that have them available, technical assistance webinars and resources of that nature. And so we'll walk through that quickly here again. I know may have seen this On the funding opportunities page, you find the program of interest, click on that particular program there. Next slide, please. And then this will help you to download the RFA. I can't reiterate enough how important that is. So, yeah, and do that even if you're familiar with the program, because there are changes in RFAs from year to year. So I would encourage you to read through that RFA every year that it comes out, and read through it thoroughly. And once you've done that, if you have questions about the RFA, reach out to the program contacts. Next slide, please. You can see that here. So you can access the program contact number 4 there and reach out to them if you have any questions about the RFA. And, as was mentioned earlier, I think by Tim as well, I would encourage everyone to, reach out to your national program leaders if you have any questions about fit for a particular program. And it's always helpful to have those discussions, and they may say this is a great fit for this particular program, or it may help you to identify another program maybe that you hadn't been thinking of that may also be or may even be a better fit or more appropriate for the work you're proposing. So with that, I think that's all we had to cover. So if you have any specific questions for us, I think we have some time to take those.
Yes, Erica, John, thank you for the very informative presentation. That was great. There are a couple of questions in our Q&A chat that you might be able to respond to. The first one, would aquaponics or hydroponic systems be considered an emerging sector for plant health and production and plant products grant opportunities?
I think I'm trying to figure out which one. I think in general, is a question asking in general, or I don't see a specific one there. I think it probably maybe best would fit into urban and indoor. It can fit into potentially other program areas as well. So I would reach out to the program leaders maybe to discuss in more detail specifically what they're thinking of there. That urban, indoor, and emerging ag is currently has been closed for the year, and whether it'll be reoffered is kind of still depending on appropriations of funding. So you'd have to keep your eyes peeled for that particular program through our RFA subscription opportunities. I see there is a question there also when I see about the hemp program. So that was the supplemental and alternative crops program. I'll answer that one. I guess we'll have it. That's a quick and easy answer. That's the supplemental alternative crops program.
Great. Thanks, John. John, there is another question here. Not sure if you can answer this one. Could you say a little bit more about the extra $150,000 for the A1141 and A1152 for including MSIs?
Sure. That particular program is available to many AFRI programs. It's called the partnership opportunity. And so it's any eligible partner, which includes MSIs, international partners. So basically kind of the same strengthening eligible criteria, and international partners are eligible. So basically, if the maximum award size was $650,000, like it is in A1152, I know, then you would be able to ask for an additional $150,000 that would go to that particular partner, at least that amount to that particular partner, and would allow them as a whole for that project to ask for up to $800,000 then. So, and you would indicate that in your submission that this is a partnership, and you would have to meet that partnership criteria. So hopefully that helps.
Great. Thanks, John. I think that's the last question we have specific to plants at this time. We have the full panel back, and we're scheduled to open up for some additional Q&A. A lot of that has already been responded to in our Q&A chat box. I will mention again, and I shared this earlier, that the information presented during the webinar is the most current information at this time. So please, and we've mentioned this several times, follow up with the RFA language before submitting any application. Also, several of our presenters have encouraged you to contact the program leaders for specific questions about the program and about fit for your program ideas. So want to encourage that. So looking at the chat box here, Eric, this may be for Erica and John. Are forestry tree improvement grants going to fit in all the programs for agricultural plants, forestry and tree improvement grants?
It depends on what you want to do. For pests and beneficials, we do cover forest protection under the AFRI A1112 pest and beneficial species and agricultural production system. That includes all forest, forest grown for wood production. So that, yeah, that would cover that. And John can answer for plant production.
Yeah, I think the answer is pretty much the same. Again, it's going to be kind of program specific, right? So, if it's plant physiology, you can work with tree species for plant physiology as long as it's an agriculturally important species, and similar for plant breeding, I think, as well. So it's kind of the same idea that, forestry is part of, as long as it's in sort of a production forestry type of setting, is relevant to most of our programs, I think.
Excellent, thank you. I believe all of our questions are answered or are being answered in the Q&A. There are a few more that popped up, but again, I will reiterate the importance of contacting and reaching out to your program leadership regarding your questions. Again, review the RFA, review our website, program pages as well, and we are here to assist you as best we can. We may have one more that we can answer. There are just a few trickling in. This question is a general one about, again, new investigator. I was awarded a specialty crop block grant. Am I eligible for a new investigator grant? Mark, you're off mute. Are you okay? Thank you.
Yeah, so we'd have to look at that grant. So if you're co-project director on the specialty crops grant, then you'd still be eligible for an AFRI as an AFRI new investigator. If you were the lead investigator on that specialty crops grant, then that would eliminate your eligibility for an AFRI new investigator grant. That may eliminate your eligibility. It also depends on the size of the grant, because we might consider that equivalent to an AFRI seed grant, in which case it might eliminate your eligibility to submit a new investigator seed grant, but not a new investigator standard grant. These eligibility are not all black and white.
Great, thanks, Mark. Another one related to plants. Are we aware of any projects related to, are there projects related to pulse crops? And we do have our databases where you can actually search funded projects on our website. But John, Erica, you want to respond to projects or opportunities to support pulse crops?
In terms of, again, I think it's one of those that, similar to trees in many ways, would fit a lot of our programs, but there's no specific program that I can think of off the top of my head that is, specifically focused on pulse crops, right? But if you're doing physiology or, protection or production related projects, they could fit within some of those other programs.
I do believe there is a commodity board co-funding priority topic on pulse crops in the foundational RFA. And I believe that, correct me if I'm wrong, Leland or John, but I believe that is focused on nutritional aspects or rather than agronomic aspects of those pulse crops. So if you're working with pulse crops, I would recommend you look at foundational and applied science RFA under the cross-cutting programs A1811, and there'll be, 14 topics there, Leland? And one of those
Correct.
is from USA dry pea and lentil for pulse consumption.
Great, thank you. SBIR related question, can funding be obtained for validation of a product if you've already built it and just need to prove it works?
So I'm happy to take that. That is also a devil in details type of question. I will say that there needs to be innovative research. And so if it's already done and it's only going to be tested, for example, that would not fit into SBIR purview. That would be really sort of a late stage of market validation. Now, having said that, there is a component, if you are funded by SBIR, in which some amount of funds, which Narun mentioned earlier, technical and business assistance, there's a certain amount of funds that can go to supporting market validation while you're doing your research. But if you've already done the research and it's complete, I would say that that would not be in scope.
Great, thanks, Tim. Another plant question, can you please elaborate a bit more on plant-based product development proposals? John, Erica, is that something you can respond to?
Let's give it a shot. I think they're probably referring to maybe the foundational knowledge of plant products program. And so that tends to focus on secondary metabolites or things of that nature that are not necessarily directly involved in yield or nutritional quality, that tend to fall in more of our other programs. So maybe things for industrial uses or that type of thing. And so I'd reach out to A1103, foundational knowledge of plant products, to discuss, the NPL to that program, to discuss that further, what they're thinking there.
Great, thanks, John. Question related to potato breeding is the potato breeding grant support research on nutritional aspects of crop?
That's one I don't know off the top of my head. I think it's probably more for varietal development, but I would encourage them again to reach out to the national program leader on that one.
All right, thank you, John. Team, if I've overlooked any that you'd like to respond to, please chime in and go ahead and respond.
I see one in the Q&A for a disease pest modeling project. Would the A11102 foundational knowledge of agricultural production systems be an option, or would it need to be a plant protection specific program? In this case, if your project really focuses on pest modeling, it really would be a better fit for the AFRI A1112 pest and beneficial species in agricultural production systems. That would be a better fit. We do cover modeling the spread and outbreak of insect pests as one of our research priority areas.
Great, thanks, Erica. Here's one related to the animal area. Is there any dairy commodity grant opportunities?
This is Leland. I'll chime in. Currently in the foundational RFA, there is not a call from the Dairy Commodity Board currently, but that's not to say that it won't be in the next coming fiscal year as we accept co-funding agreements from the National Commodity Board.
However, all the programs in the AFRI animal health and production and animal products program area of the foundational RFA, except projects on various aspects of dairy production, whether, and I say dairy, that's dairy cows, dairy goats, sheep, whatever. So it could be reproduction, genetics, genomics, animal health. Also the cross-cutting programs that are relevant to animal production. So care, data science, ideas, those could also target work in dairy animals.
Great. Thanks, Leland. Thanks, Mark, for that response. Opportunities related to small fruit crops. Are there grant opportunities related to small fruit crops? Eric, I see you shaking your head there.
Yeah, John can elaborate on this too, but SCRI certainly, and any number of programs in the AFRI, foundational plant knowledge, any of those, yeah, we cover all variety of small fruit crops, and also we cover it in plant protection as well.
Great, thank you. Question related to aquaculture. Does fish disease research fall under animal health or special aquaculture areas? Tim, are you
It
available?
definitely falls, it definitely
Thanks, Mark.
falls under A1221, diseases of agricultural animals, in the foundational and applied science RFA. I can't speak to what aspects of that type of work would fit within the special research grants and aquaculture program. I would reach out to Tim Sullivan on that. I'm answering this question because I don't see him online anymore.
He's
I'm
back on
here,
now.
Mark.
Oh, you're here. You're
Yeah.
back. I see you.
Yeah, I was answering an email. Sorry.
Okay, so did you hear the question?
I think I saw it in the chat. It's the one about fish disease.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
I answered it for AFRI, so answer it for.
Yeah, so in the special research grants program, there is a priority for integrated aquatic animal health. So any fish disease project that, I mean, we typically target food animals that are covered under the National Aquaculture Act. So any finfish, any shellfish that's harvested for food, or aquatic reptiles. So we see submissions that are on farmed alligators. Those are all appropriate to the program. The primary difference is if your application is still more on the basic side. So if you're looking at, you know, more basic microbiology or virology of an aquaculture disease, that's going to be more appropriate to 1221. But if you're developing a diagnostic or testing a probiotic or a vaccine that would be applied in aquaculture, even an adjuvant, if it's primarily on the applied side, then it could be appropriate to the special research grants for aquaculture. The budgets, though, are that for the special research is the same as it would be for a seed grant. So it's $300,000 for up to 24 months. So those are the primary differences. I hope that answered the question, at least most of the way.
Great. Thanks, Tim. And thanks again, Mark, for chiming in. As we review the chat box, I believe most are being answered. We will also be going through our chat box, our Q&A box for additional questions. And again, doing some research for those we couldn't answer immediately, and making sure we post a Q&A on our website within a week or so of this workshop. So again, at this point, I think we can begin to say farewell. Thank you. Mark, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I would like to address one topic that came up repeatedly in the
Yes,
Q&A on
please do.
new investigator eligibility. Actually, it's a couple of topics. So first of all, the new investigator eligibility in AFRI, it's only in AFRI. It's not in other programs. They don't have the legislative authority to issue new investigator grants. Secondly, it applies to the project director. Eligibility applies to the project director and not any co-project directors on the grant. And it applies, and that eligibility applies to grant funding you've received previously as a project director, not sub-awards as a co-project director. So that's a big part of the eligibility. And lastly, the 5-year clock for new investigators, once it starts, it doesn't get paused or suspended or turned off and then restarted. It's 5 years and it goes to 5 years, whether you're moved to another job that's where you're eligible to submit as a grants or not. So if you are, for example, a senior postdoc and you submit a standard grant application, your new investigator clock starts with that grant application and continues for 5 years uninterrupted, even if you move to a job where you can't submit grant applications. It's not a 5 years spaced over X amount of time. Once it starts, it goes for 5 years and then ends.
Mark, that was very helpful. You're right. There were a number of questions on new investigators, and that really has prompted me to now, let me open it up to the panel. Are there other themes that you all saw in the Q&A that we responded to in writing that you would like to address now? Any other themes or specific questions? Great. If not, again, as a team, we will be reviewing the chat and Q&A questions later, making sure that we have sufficiently responded to our stakeholders who have questions, inquiries regarding our topics. So again, I want to thank our outstanding panel today who presented. I want to thank them also for responding to questions efficiently in the Q&A chat. Also want to thank everyone who joined us today as active participants, not only absorbing the great information, but also submitting excellent questions in our chat. So thank you so much. Again, if you have additional questions, feel free to reach out to your program leaders. We are excited about engaging with you to make sure that we support the most excellent science in agriculture that we can. So again, thank you and have a wonderful day.